So what causes the disruption? Before we look at what causes the disruption, if no conception happens, no pregnancy, then by tray 26, the levels are dropping both of progesterone and of estrogen. And when both those levels drop, the blood supply to the uterus is cut. And when the blood supply to the uterus is cut, then the blood nest comes away and we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's how the cycle should look, but unfortunately today, not many cycles look like that. So our million-dollar question is why? So let's have a look at what throws the hormones out of balance. 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. The 1960s is called the sexual revolution. Women wanted to be able to have sex without having babies. And so the contraceptive pill was introduced. What is the pill? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. In a laboratory, the plant chemical that's in Mexican wild yam is extracted. And in a laboratory, it's converted to progesterone. It's called progesterone because it has an identical molecular structure to the progesterone that the body makes. But the pharmaceutical company can't patent that. You know, they can't patent sodium bicarbonate either. So they have to change it. They have to create something else. So they come up with, they add a few more atoms to that progesterone and come up with synthetic estrogen. Add a few more atoms and come up with a synthetic progesterone. You see, in the early 1990s, it was acknowledged that estrogen is a known human carcinogen. And pill, up until then, was just straight estrogen. So by law, they had to add some progesterone. But it's synthetic progesterone, so it really doesn't help a lot because it inhibits your progesterone uptake. So when these synthetic hormones, which are in the pill, are taken into the body, let me show you what's happening. So number 1 hormone should be progesterone, number 2 estrogen. Month after month on the pill, the body now thinks it's pregnant, so it doesn't release the egg. And if it doesn't release the egg, no corpus luteum's been made. So week after week, after month, what's happening to progesterone? It's going down. A month after month with its synthetic estrogen, where's estrogen going? We've got a problem today, sadly too common. It's called estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency. And it was Dr. John Lee that first blew the whistle on this. There have been some other doctors and authors that have also written about this. And he shows that now we have estrogen dominance. I liken estrogen to fire and water. Good slave, bad master. On 2019, I flew back into Australia, and when I drove onto our property, it was as black as black. I think you heard about the fires. We just thank God we didn't lose any buildings. That's why I say fire and water are a good slave, but it's a bad master. Same with estrogen. Now, we've got it as master. What effect is it having with its cell proliferator action? Fibroids in the uterus, cysts on the ovaries, polycystic ovarian syndrome, causing the endometrium to wander all through the abdominal wall. That's called endometriosis. 70 years ago, there were something like 100 cases worldwide. Today, there are 10 million alone in the US. And you will find it all rose around the time that the pill was introduced, because you can see how the pill disrupts the hormones. And a 25-year-old lady told me that she was just diagnosed with endometriosis. You see, when the blood nest falls away with the dropping of the hormones, these little pockets bleed, but they've got nowhere to go. And they have excruciating pain at period time, because all those little pockets have got nowhere to go, and the pain from that. This 25-year-old lady told me that her doctor said she'll be all right when she goes through menopause. Huh? 25 more years of pain and suffering. Or medicine can offer to diathermy, that's like burn them out. But if you don't turn the tap off, guess what? They're all going to come back. You've got to find the cause. So this cell proliferator action causing growths in the reproductive organs of the body, including the breasts, even to the point of breast cancer and also uterine cancer. A lady came and did our program. She had a lump in her breast 10 years ago, so she had both breasts removed, and they built 2 new breasts. Here she was at our retreat with breast cancer in the new breasts. If you don't find out the cause, it's going to come back. That's basic common sense. We're flipping into common sense now. See how we flip between Bible, history, science and common sense? Because God is the author of all of them, and you will find that they come together. That's how you can determine truth. But where's progesterone? Down here. How's the woman's mood the week before her periods? Watch out, she'll bite your head off. I said to one lady, do you get premenstrual tension? She said, no, I just hate my husband for a week every month. She's got it. How many people think it's normal? It is not normal. But also, going on a little bit further, then the person's diagnosed with depression. And it actually turns out to be just a hormonal imbalance. This is the cause of postnatal depression. This is the cause of premenstrual tension. There it is there. One writer in Australia, she claims that the pill has caused the mass murder of millions of women. So the woman's now going through menopause. You see, it was the baby boomers that it was first given to, is that right? The baby boomers are now late 50s, 60s, some into their 70s. They're going through menopause. How are they faring? They've got hot flushes. High estrogen causes capillary dilation. The blood rushes to the skin. The husband knows because all the blankets get thrown off in the middle of the night and they get pulled on again. One lady said to me, Barbara, I'm a CEO of a large company. I'm in the middle of a board meeting and I get this huge flush. And I'm perspiring. She said, I can't handle it. So she said, I went to the doctor and he gave me hormone replacement therapy. She said, at least now I can give a meeting without this flash. I understand that. But what is hormone replacement therapy? It's more synthetic hormones, tricking the body once again into thinking it's pregnant. So instead of putting its energies to the skin, it puts its energies internally. 6 years later, the lady's got a lump on her breast. She goes to the doctor, it's breast cancer. He takes her off HRT immediately. Why does he do that? He knows. So you say to the physician, why do you do that if you know it can cause breast cancer? Here's his answer. He said she was suffering and it brought her relief. That's true. And not every woman will get breast cancer. That's true. But it's like playing Russian roulette. And if you say to the lady, here's your choice, breast cancer or hot flushes, what will she say?
Hot flushes.
I'll get a black lace fan. We had a lady last week, she had her black lace fan. But what you're going to hear today is a third. And that is you can balance those hormones around. The amount of women that have said within 1 month of implementing this balancing program, they're not having hot flushes anymore, or they've reduced by half. That's the good news. Some women have never been on the pill or HRT, and yet they have an obvious hormonal imbalance. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? Do you ever wonder? Is the growth stimulants? It's against the law to give growth stimulants in many areas now, so they genetically modified the chicken to produce more estrogen so it'll grow quicker. If it's in the chicken, it's in the egg. And in Australia, it's against the law for cattle farmers to give their cattle growth stimulants. But a cattle farmer's wife told me, she said, once a month they're knocking on our door, pushing the growth stimulants. And they tell you to stop the growth stimulant here, then it's not picked up in the blood test at the abattoirs. So meat and its products are also another source of hormone disrupting substances coming into the human body. Number 3, because I've met some people who are vegetarians, they've never had the pill, there's more. What causes plastic to be soft? And when I was 16, my brother was 18 and he got his first car. It was a Zephyr. and the dashboard was second heart. The dashboard was split, so he had turquoise fur on it and a cow that's head went up and down. That's real 60s, isn't it? Have you noticed dashboards don't split anymore? It's because they have a chemical in it called nonylphenol. A nonylphenol keeps the plastic soft. There's also bisphenol A, called BPA.
Yeah.
Estrogen contains a phenyl ring, and that phenyl ring is the key that unlocks the door to get estrogen into the estrogen receptor site in the cell. So can you see that these plastics with their phenols in them have an estrogen effect on the body? So plastics. You can get BPA-free plastic, and you can also, usually the hard plastic, you can't squeeze it. So drink bottles should be hard plastic, glass, or the stainless steels. Plastics also chemicals, and probably one of the worst chemicals. And the reason why it's the worst is because to kill the plant, it actually has an effect on the plant's hormones. It's called glyphosate or Roundup. The Sri Lankan government have banned Roundup or glyphosate because of the amount of rice farmers that were dying, and their children were showing traces of it. I know it was probably 2 years ago, made front lines in one of our big newspapers in Australia. Two farmers, farmer and his wife, in their 70s, had both died of pancreatic cancer, and it was directly attributable to the Roundup. So what's the pancreas? It's actually part of our hormonal system. If you buy a potato and it's not organic, I can just about assure you it'll have Roundup on it, because they use Roundup to kill the top, the top of the green top, because when that top dies, then they can harvest it. But absolutely, it's also, they've genetically modified so many plants to resist Roundup so they can keep spraying the fields. So herbicides, insecticides, I consider that they are just as much chemicals. One more point, clothes. Clothes can have chemicals in them if you're washing your clothes in a laundry detergent that contains chemicals. But there are 3 fabrics that are made really from plastic. One is polyester, acrylic, and nylon. So there are so many fabrics today. We know cotton and we know silk, but by the way, if you buy cotton, you must wash it and you must hang it on the clothesline for a day, because cotton is one of the most sprayed crops. So you've got cotton, wool, silk, bamboo. You may not be aware that rayon and viscose are both made out of wood pulp, so they're considered natural fibres. And modal, M-O-D-A-L. I've even got modal stockings. I've bought a modal petticoat. It's a very fine silky, and it's the cellulose spun from the birch tree. So the 3 that you need to be very mindful of are your acrylic, polyester and nylon. Now with guys, their underwear's cotton, their undershirts are cotton. It's not such a big deal, but ladies like the pretty things, and unfortunately a lot of those pretty things are made out of nasty materials, nasty fabrics. And when they're against the woman's body and she exercises and gets hot, her pores open, the fabric gets hot, and she starts to absorb those chemicals. But you have some great companies, I think Fruit of the Loom, they sell very nice sports bras and underwear that are made out of cotton. I don't mind if there's 5% polyester or nylon to give it a little bit of stretch, as long as predominantly it's made out of natural fibre. So let me give you the soy issue, because you will read articles that will say, if you have breast cancer, don't touch soy. You've read that?
Yes.
Prostate cancer. So let me give you the truth on this. Here are 3 cells, and these 3 cells have estrogen receptor sites. Now this estrogen is what we call xenoestrogen. So these here are xenoestrogen. So your chemicals, your herbicides, your insecticides, the plastics. These xenoestrogens or estrogen mimickers are 20,000 times stronger than human estrogen, so they're big. So how big is human estrogen? Human estrogen is 20,000 times stronger than plant. So the plant estrogen just sits very nicely into the receptor site like that. Well, what about the plant? Well, it's a tiny little slip of a thing that just lines the receptor site like that. So, students, is it the plant we need to be fearful of? No, it's the chemicals that are the most. But let me tell you why many are saying the soy. Here's the soybean grown in America today. It's called Roundup Ready, which means it's been genetically modified to resist Roundup. First problem, it's been genetically modified. A farmer told me this. He said, we spray 5 times before harvest, all the weeds die, and the soybean keeps growing. That's a worry, isn't it? But you know what it means? That soybean has 5 doses of Roundup in it. That is a dangerous soybean. That soybean will increase prostate cancer and breast cancer, but not because of the natural estrogens that are in the soy, but because of the poisons that it is grown with. Now, the beauty of the plant estrogens, soy being, of course, probably one of the main ones, when it comes to the receptor site, it knocks on the door. Excuse me, do you need me? Remember Psalm 104 verse 14, God gave herbs for the service of man. So it knocks on the door and the cell says, no thanks, we got enough. So plant estrogen says, well, I'll just sit at the door. And can you see that it protects that receptor site now from any xenos that might come along? But if it knocks on the door and says, please come in, then it will come in. Medicine calls it synergism. It works with the needs of the body, and that's what the herbs do. So you can see that we don't need to fear soy. The only soy we need to keep away from really is the one that's been genetically modified and grown with poisons. So if you buy soy and it's organic, you can be just about 99% sure that it hasn't used genetically modified seed, because if an organic farmer uses the genetically modified seed, he loses his organic status. Before I have a look at what turns this around, estradiol and estrone, with their strong cell proliferator action, all of the xenoestrogens have that strong cell proliferator action, very similar to estradiol and estrone.